for him here and that he was welcome to arrive at any time. Dex gave a final wave. He was aware that he had developed a problematic relationship with the Baroness. This woman was now confident in her emotions. She was aware that this journey held the key to reshaping the world. Given that Dex had already made numerous contributions that altered the Arcadian world, this idea made a lot of sense. And both those inside and outside the game have been impacted by these changes. The destinies of the humans and even the monsters in his immediate vicinity were drastically altered. Even to these fortunate ones, Arcadia is a world designed exclusively with the players in mind. And the only player who was actually following the game's original design was this guy. The quantity of trolling he committed during this game will have no bearing on what he was going to do the next time. Satan was now questioning his master about his level of certainty about entering the political sphere. But Dex was stuck with this outcome because it wasn't going any other way. Even so, he would make sure to do these things in order to gain greater credibility. And a dazzling beam of light suddenly emerged. Our MC was informed by the system that the issue has been fixed. The Magnificent Skies medallion has already undergone modifications. Then this object began to radiate this luminous holy light, and our MC nearly lost his sight. Devil and Dex could only watch as this thing misbehaved. This medallion was emitting something. Our MC was astounded by what he was witnessing. Satan was even alarmed. The medallion informed Dex that he would now be under the protection of a guardian angel and bestowed upon him a holy attribute. It was also impossible to deactivate the item, which was now permanently attached to him. In front of Dex, an angel did indeed appear. This incident left him in disbelief. This angel was the light of holiness and glory, Michael the Archangel, and she was in this form right now. It is the devils and angels. These races resembled dogs and cats. Since the two have been sworn enemies, they are really unable to coexist. And both of these races' leaders were currently in front of Dex. They fought like little children. Michael challenged the devil. When she woke up, she discovered that Satan had already begun destroying their holy base in Mount Fine, and she was still wondering what this guy was doing. Satan retaliated. If she had woken up first, he knew Michael would have responded in the same way. These two continued to argue without really stopping. This was the look on Dex's face. He commanded the two to cease. Now, he was merely positioned between them to prevent them from touching. Satan declared that he would have already vanquished Michael if he had his original body. But this angel would not give up. She brought up the last war's conclusion to Satan. Satan mentioned that she only prevailed because she opposed him with a supernatural weapon. This drew the attention of our MC. But all in all, they resembled children. Additionally, Dex recalled the details he had learned from the library. They accurately described these two in their description. Then, as this angel called to Michael, he turned to face him. If Dex was the person who had actually created an contract with Satan, she questioned. And our MC said, yes. He clarified that he truly had no choice and that the contract was forced upon him. Dex gave the impression that he truly didn't want this set up, which made Satan cry. Michael then informed him that Dex possesses a power known as plausibility, which, in the wrong hands, could be extremely dangerous. He became enraged when she specifically mentioned and referred to Satan as a downright bat. Michael warned Dex not to fall for this demon's flattery, since there was really nothing they could do because the contract was completed. She added that she would guide Dex toward the correct path and act as his guardian angel. Although Dex sensed her sincerity in her words, Satan simply burst out laughing. He informed Michael that her wish was unattainable. He was asked why he couldn't stop smirking by this angel. As the ruler of the demons, Satan assured her that he knew one thing for sure. He disclosed that among all the humans he had encountered, Dex was the most akin to a demon. He went on to say that this man could be even more evil than any demon. After being shocked by this, Dex came to the conclusion that Satan was not entirely incorrect. He was given a hidden class called Bard of Anarchy, which calls for him to alter and upend the entire Arcadian world. His actions were all viewed negatively as well, but because she didn't see it that way, Michael stowed with her words. She explained to Dex that their creator always ensured that someone had kindness in their heart and that it was her responsibility to bring that kindness back. This angel pledged to use her best efforts to bring out the best in Dex. She also said that Dex could just address her by her nickname. All Satan did was look at them. Mel was then informed by him that although he could ignore her traveling with them, he couldn't give her any credibility. With a smile, she informed Satan that it was quite arrogant of him to simply control this power known as plausibility. Elle told him to forget about it as soon as she showed up, and the two began fighting once more. They are actually incompatible. Dex was just in disbelief. He felt that he had two noisy familiars with him at the moment rather than just one. He called Elle to break up their fight. It doesn't really matter, our hero reasoned, whether his familiars were angels or demons. They weren't the reason the world was improving, and this one was capitalist. He grinned and told Elle that he didn't actually give Satan any credibility at all. The strongest angel was just asked by this guy what she could give in return for her power. Elle was surprised to hear this from her boss. She quickly made adjustments after learning that his master had a give-and-take mentality, as this was well known even in the heavenly realm. Dex asked her if she had any skills that he could use after she said she could give him some heavenly weapons. Elle wasn't entirely sure what was meant by skill. For the first time, Dex discovered that these familiars were not truly familiar with game terms. He went on to say that he was searching for something that would enable him to battle more formidable opponents because he was not very strong in combat. This angel evaluated and determined what Dex actually required. Because of this hidden class, our hero really needed some skills that could aid him in combat. It did away with the idea of leveling up. Plausibility was a strong stat, but he wouldn't really want to depend on it all the time. His only skills up to this point were in diving and mining, both of which were non-combat abilities. Elle's face lit up the moment she realized she could give her master something truly amazing. After then, a consortium was formed between this angel and Dex. Our hero was informed by the system that he had acquired a new skill called Divine Descent. Dex was still able to use this skill in exchange for plausibility. Elle informed him that the Arcana trek was completed and that Dex could now utilize his heavenly abilities to his Dex is unsure of how to react because plausibilities are still needed for this kind of power. But rather than nothing, this was fantastic. Then, trying out this new ability he had, he grinned. Divine Descent was used by our hero, and he was surrounded by a very bright aura. The pressure of this skill alone was blowing Satan away already, and the whole forest felt it. This bright light was also visible to the monsters surrounding the area, and it appeared that it attracted their attention. Elle described the operation of this skill. Now, Dex could momentarily harness the strength of legendary warriors with a devotional spirit within them. The first hero was the great thief of faithfulness, Parcel, the divine archer of the legends, Merlin, the great wizard of truth, and the knight of honor, Farron. Our hero, Merfin, was quite pleased with this talent. He was still testing out his new ability when he heard a sound nearby. He knew that this would be quite helpful. These enormous orcs were the source, and they could speak human. When they ordered him to turn in all the expensive stuff he had acquired, rather than feeling scared, Dex grinned because he could now use his abilities to take aim at these monsters. Many explorers were still trapped at Mount Fine mining ores at the time. These people thought that by watching just one YouTube video, they could become wealthy through gaming. However, as they dug deeper into this mining site, they discovered that their once impossible dream had become unattainable. Even HumeTech, the extremely unfortunate person in Arcadia, has accepted his fate and admitted to being duped. Now, all of his friends were having fun slaying monsters all over the city. Even though he wanted to ask for assistance, he was too ashamed to tell them what was going on. He truly doesn't give a damn about the money right now. His only goal was to escape this mess. He considered simply leaving this nightmare behind. His ability to make decisions was being affected by the volume of work he had completed, but this was interrupted when he heard someone yelling. The guards were leading this man back to the mining site. He attempted to get out of here. HumeTech was then informed by the other explorers that it was pointless to flee. The Baroness will give them an order and declare them deserters even if they are able to leave this place. In all towns and cities, whoever bears this title will be regarded as a criminal. This one made the suggestion that rather than being unable to play the game peacefully, they should just go work to pay off their debt. HumeTech was so moved by these words from other explorers that he forgot about his escape plan. He kept using his pickaxe to mine more iron ores despite the fact that he was already in tears. Then, the system informed him that his mining speed had somewhat increased and that his mining skill had leveled up. Persistent Miner was the title awarded to the unluckiest player. Additionally, he attracted the attention of a person known as Longest Burning Flame. This guy was watching him closely after gaining something. Since this was the first time he had seen the information, HumeTech was understandably perplexed by the notification. However, the guards ordered him to return to his work before he could examine any more of it. Coming full circle, our hero had employed his recently acquired talent, Divine Descent. Farron, the Knight of Honor, was the hero he selected. Throughout his life, this one was a holy water that consistently brought him victory. Even the mere sight of his sword was enough to terrify every demon in the prison surrounding him. Numerous lives were also spared by his shield. Every conflict in which he had engaged was already regarded as a win. Because of this kind of accomplishment, he was given the title Living Honor. Due to his immense strength, the demons referred to him by a different name. Nobody was even able to oppose this hero. Farron was dubbed the Devil Breaker, and now our hero has taken control of this hero's power. Dex have taken up the spirit of this valiant warrior and absorbed it. Now he has access to all of this hero's abilities. Satan recognized the sword and shield that emerged from the Dex right away. Because this skill lived up to its name, our hero was more than happy. The force actually entered his body. This was even more amazing than he had anticipated. Now, Satan was whining because Farron was the one who descended among all the heroes. He informed Dex that Farron's name was known to all the demons. He disclosed that this man was insane since he could vanquish every demon, including those who posed no threat to him. Dex laughed at this because, from the demon's point of view, the hero that everyone else was cheering for was actually a criminal, and having finished his preparations, he turned back to the orcs. It was time to fight these ones. He'd made them wait far too long. Since Dex's strength was almost non-existent a while back, the orcs knew that their opponent had just received a significant power boost. This was noticed by our hero because these monsters were not attacking him right away like other monsters had. He believed they carried a modicum of intelligence. After leaving Mikhail Barney, Dex chose a different path, which is how he came across these monsters. He took a route through the dense forest. The field boss, who was also a prison, and the numerous monsters that lurked around made this route unusable for explorers. Dex considered a level 25 field boss monster to be fairly powerful. Then, this monster charged at our hero, beginning its attack. But Dex only managed to block its attack. It was a laboring will skill that came into play. He felt content since he had learned how to apply this ability. Dex was now prepared to counter that attack. He is no longer protected by the Holy Shield, it is now in combat mode. A number of skills were used at once. The belief in justice and stoking the flame of dawn. Above our hero, these guys created an effing enormous light sword. These monsters had enough fear from this sight. But it was too late now. Dex was looking forward to the outcome of this attack. And then the whole forest was illuminated by a massive beam of light. This managed to chop down every tree in its path. Clearly, this was a light Getsugi Tenshu. The Divine Descent skill was rendered inactive following that attack. The system quickly calculated how many claws were used, arriving at 352. The Holy Knight's soul departed our MC's body. This guy was a little let down because these people perished from a single blow. Elle, meanwhile, was too taken aback by what she had just seen. This angel was surprised that a human could wield such a strong ability and even advance it. She was astounded as well. Elle discovered why her creator had directed her in the direction of this adventurer. It was to see the incredible feats that this adventurer was capable of. This guy right here has the power to alter the course of history just by virtue of his existence. Archangel Michael was ecstatic to have witnessed this firsthand. Although Dex was growing more interested in his familiar, he was disappointed that he was unable to use it in a proper fight. Elle and Satan were now dozing off on the ground later that evening. Our hero, meantime, was still awake. This guy was still studying Divine Descent, his most recent ability. Because he was able to weigh all the advantages and disadvantages, Dex was also happy that he had used this skill sooner than anticipated. For the pros, it removes the possibility of a level and power disparity when he plays against more experienced opponents. Prior to gaining this ability, his only choice was to use plausibility to buy a weapon from Satan. However, this one is very point intensive, and buying one kind of weapon would disadvantage him because he will eventually have to fight different opponents. Our hero was happy that he had persevered through this initially. Divine Descent has its drawbacks as well. Dex had already used up 352 points just from using it, and it only took about 3 minutes to take out 3 orcs. Dex pondered the financial consequences of facing a more formidable foe. The only drawback to this skill was that. Now, this guy was really unsure about using this skill or not. In terms of the bottom line, though, he enjoyed using it. Then, he heard a voice that startled him. Elle was the source. She claimed that, in contrast to others, she simply sleeps lightly, and she was discussing Satan. This archangel began by discussing how employing his power took up a lot of plausibility, which worried Dex. Elle went on to say that Dex's summoned hero was not a native speaker, and all other demons dreaded this one because it was a strong being. And it was already a big deal to think that our hero could use his powers. She went on to say that the number of points was just right. After hearing her out, Dex concluded that the angel was utilizing her voice in a certain way. Ultimately, our hero came to the conclusion that having this skill offered him more options when facing off against opponents, so it was not truly a burden. All he had to do was use this prudently. Elle was happy that Dex was persuaded as her mission had been accomplished. Because it served as the foundation for the Korean server in Arcadia, the Maroon Kingdom was a significant location. And this place's internal affairs were not in a good state right now. However, this location was regarded as strong and well established despite the competition for dominance. The Maroon Kingdom's key benefit was its advantageous location. Its location put it squarely between its neighboring nations, allowing it to serve as a middleman when other nations wished to import or export their goods. People were also inspired to establish their merchant businesses here as a result. And the GM Great Merchant Association, one of the largest merchant associations, was a prison. Now, a non-permanent customer outside the building was grumbling that he had come here to meet the merchantry business but could not find him. However, he was approached by someone who apologized. John Smith, the elderly man, held the position of branch manager for the GM Great Merchant Association. For the time being, he is the one who will help this NPC. He clarified that their leader had an important meeting in the building's main room and was unable to meet with the merchant NPC. This white-haired man was speaking with the guildmaster of the GM Merchant Association about the impending war that would inevitably break out in their kingdom. Duke Barhan was this man, and he was the head of the Maroon Kingdom's nobility, and the guild's merchantry master, Jeju, was the other man. Like Dex, he was an adventurer. He believed that Duke Barhan had a wicked tongue for a non-player character. He also knew that the man in front of him had all the power to raise his own army and take this kingdom's throne with ease. Duke Barhan's strength and clout made him a man of great danger. However, this man who had the power to rule the entire kingdom just now approached their guild and asked for assistance. Choi can't let this chance pass him by, even though he didn't anticipate meeting this NPC so soon. A brief history of Choi Jeju. This one was the chairman of the GM group's youngest son. His attitude made it difficult for his father to raise him. He had attempted numerous jobs within the company, but he consistently fell short of expectations. Because of all the mistakes he had caused their company, he was close to being disowned. Choi Jeju led the GM Great Merchant Association, which is currently the merchantry with a stronghold in the Maroon Kingdom. He started his own business in the game with his father's money. This guild's primary goal was to profit from each and every player who joined the game. Choi Jeju plans to steal a large sum of money. At this table, at that very moment, was a symbol of authority and power. The two men were from virtual reality and reality, respectively. Once more, their paths have crossed with two distinct worlds. Duke Barhan took a step. He informed Jeju that he wished to personally meet the head of the merchant association that catered to all adventurers. He gave Jeju a lot of credit for how quickly his company had grown and gained a lot of clout. Duke Barhan desired to become their ally as a result. In exchange, he wished to request that the GM group purchase every grain that was on the market. Duke Barhan would have to pay them dearly. They will become formal partners as a result of this. Duke Barhan might grant the Jeju Merchant Association the power to handle the Maroon Kingdom's logistical supplies if everything goes as planned. As far as Jeju was concerned, this offer was truly unique, and he consented right away since he was aware that Duke Barhan had the potential to rule the kingdom. This old man then left the room, and Jeju realized that this was his opportunity, which is why he was left grinning. Speaking to the elderly man, he informed him that they had a truly amazing opportunity. Stowing up, Jeju asked the old man to get in touch with his father right away so they could request additional investment. However, John Smith forbade it. Jeju was taken aback and perplexed by this response. It turns out that this man was requesting more money for the game after having already spent about $8 billion, or $6.2 million on it. From his standpoint, the potential profits their company could make from this partnership would far outweigh this sum of money. Helping Duke Barhan with his plans and providing the Maroon Kingdom with all the goods they required was all that was required of him. This will guarantee that the man with the white hair will ascend to the throne. And following all of that, the GM Great Merchant Association will become the dominant force in the continent's economy. This man, Count Brockham, was conversing with someone at the same moment, and it was none other than our MC, Dex, this someone. As it happened, Dex had made it to the location Mikhail had suggested he visit. Then he hurriedly gave the man the letter. Count Brockham was impressed that an adventurer could obtain such a thing directly from the Baroness. As the Baroness had told him, Dex began to clarify that he was expecting some sort of protection. But the letter was ripped in half before he could say anything more. The fact that this man didn't even bother to read it first startled Dex. Then, Count Brockham asked our MC directly why he had been sent here in the first place. The Count stared at Dex intently, but Dex smiled in response to this NPC's direct approach rather than feeling scared. He responded in jest, saying he honestly had no idea why he had been sent here. Additionally, he was unconcerned because individuals with high status were typically in charge of these affairs. There was pressure on these two from the moment this sarcastic statement was made. However, Count Brockham interrupted the quiet and burst out laughing. He complimented Dex on his attitude. This man has known for all this time why the Baroness sent Dex to him. It was done to assist them in resolving the ongoing dispute that was going to cost the Maroon Kingdom and Parkville Kingdom war. With humility, main character declined the compliments and informed the Count that he was genuinely unsure of how he could assist them with this issue. The fact that Dex was not even startled by the prospect of war that had just been disclosed to him made Count Brockham even more impressed. This indicated that he had previously heard this information from Mikhail, and she had great faith in him. The Count then asked Dex if he had any suggestions for how they ought to tackle this issue. It was discovered that the nobles were all working together with Duke Bayan, and that the prince was too young to make wise decisions for the realm. With this knowledge, Dex began to reason. Then he informed Count Brockham that they had both a difficult and an easy solution. Regarding Dex, the simpler one concerned Duke Bayan, the primary offender. Typically, an organization would disintegrate as soon as the leader left. This man understood Dex's intentions, which included killing the Duke. Our MC approvingly validated this theory. Count Brockham laughed even harder at this because he thought Dex was an intriguing explorer. He was speaking in a loud voice that was now overwhelming Dex. Count Brockham admitted that he had considered that solution before he calmed down. But Duke Bayan has many elite adventurers and guards surrounding him who protect him 24 hours a day, so it was not as simple as Dex thought it would be. He said to Dex that he would like to meet someone who is crazy enough to continue working in this kind of situation. Then, pointing to himself, our MC informed the Count that he would carry out the assassination. This made the atmosphere around them uncomfortable. The Count then said to X that he believed X wouldn't be able to scuff the Duke's clothing in any way. He believed that Dex was only a level 1 adventurer and that he was incapable of completing such a difficult mission. However, our MC asked him again, this time grinning, if Count Brockham truly believed that he couldn't succeed. Count Brockham experienced extreme pressure this time. He then complimented Dex and said that he exuded confidence. This man asked Dex to follow him as he got up. These two proceeded to the practice area. Count Brockham informed Dex that he must first establish his worth. This one needed more information before he could fully trust the Baroness's decision. Now, Dex will be put to the test to see if he was truly qualified for this mission. The Count Brockham began to release his energy. This man is referred to as the Kingdom's Shield. He was a skilled swordsman as well. He was hoping that Dex wouldn't let him down, and our MC was ecstatic to see this scene. He applied his talent for divine descent. This time, he called upon the spirit of the itinerant knight, known as Cophilus. Then, a dazzling green light began to encircle Dex's body. A while back, Count Brockham sensed a difference in the aura emanating from Dex. Prior to the green light appearing, he believed that Dex lacked any prior sword handling experience. However, this one had the impression of going up against a master of the sword's dance. Then the system verified that Cophilus's soul had settled on Dex's body. Then, our MC informed Count Brockham that the fight would end in 5 minutes or less. He knew deep down that he had to get this done quickly because it takes up a lot of plausibility. However, this man heard it in a different way. Dex got moving and instantly used a number of skills. He moved too quickly for the average eye to follow. He was standing in front of Count Brockham in an instant. Fortunately, the attack was blocked by this man, who believed that Dex's sword was too heavy. Even though Dex was expecting to win this with a single blow, the sword master's skill level was extremely great. Then he put a little space between them. Count Brockham was aware that Dex was not your typical explorer, and our MC expressed gratitude that this NPC understood that. He then asked the elderly man, whose skill was already proven, if he would like to continue sparring with him. Count Brockham grinned, realizing he had to prove to Dex that he was more than capable of letting things stand as they are. Then, this swordsman employed a technique known as formless aura blade, and his body began to exude a sudden surge of power. The Count disclosed that he was proud of his abilities and that he planned to demonstrate them to Dex. This situation had quickly escalated to the point where our MC was shocked. The elderly man finished his blow and looked around, wondering how Dex would respond to this. Now a deadly red slash was approaching our MC. He was in a hurry to respond to it. Just as the Count's attack was about to land, a massive explosion appeared. He continued to look in the direction of Dex's position, but something startled him. In addition to using the same skill as Count Brockham, our MC was able to block his attack. The method of formless words. He was also aware of how different their techniques were from one another. The formless sword of Dex was more potent. Those who attained the title of Sword Master could also employ this kind of skill. Additionally, the system informed Dex that the skill he employed was intended for adventurers who had already reached level 150 or higher. As a result, more plausibility points were used up. Dex questioned Elle about how much of plausibility she had already used, not expecting this kind of thing. This elderly man, meantime, concealed himself and kept watching Dex. Count Brockham was startled when our MC turned to face him. Dex advised him to put an immediate stop to their sparring. After saying that, Dex charged up an attack meant to end the fight and teleported in front of the elderly man. Although Count Brockham was able to stop it, the attack was simply too strong. Someone was pushing him back. This old man also believed that if he kept blocking this attack, he would not be able to survive. And Dex seized the chance as soon as he displayed a hint of weakness. Count Brockham was the target of a clean attack. This was sufficient to cause him to let go of his sword. Dex instantly disabled the divine descent ability after defeating the Count. This man was grateful that he had avoided being killed in the attack. Then, the system informed Dex that he had used up an incredible 2812 plaws worth of ability points. In addition, he was given the moniker Fighter of Miracles for his victory over a far more formidable opponent. His strength stat gained an extra 10 points as a result, permanently. But rather than being pleased, Dex was taken aback by how many points the skill took away. Elle showed up and said that because Dex had used more power this time, there had been a greater consumption of points. Additionally, she failed to alert Dex about it because it appeared that he was enjoying the fight too much. She was equally captivated by her master's skillful utilization of celestial power. The full power of this skill would be unlocked if other players attempted this. Elle surveyed the battlefield before inquiring as to Dex's prior sword-wielding experience. Our MC informed Elle that he had gotten good at using this weapon from somewhere else, recalling the time he had spent on the other games. Meanwhile, Count Brocken remained frozen in place. He finds it unbelievable that a low-level adventurer could defeat a sword master of the Maroon Kingdom. He was not even able to see where Dex's sword was going. He believed that despite developing such incredible powers, Dex remained a mystery to the outside world. The elderly man also knelt before Dex and inquired as to what his sword was pursuing. Our MC argued about it and claimed that a wind was to blame. This response made this count realize something. Abruptly, he imagined the force of the wind. This element was sharper and freer than anything else, and it was faster than anyone else. At this point, Count Brocken was considering making this his goal to achieve. The elderly man stowed away and began sabering. Satan and Dex just stared at him, thinking it strange that he was suddenly trading. A short while later, the Count bowed his head to express his regret for his earlier rudeness to Dex. Dex assured him it was insignificant. The Count went on to ask if Dex was certain that he would carry out the assassination on his own. He was informed by RMC that this was the simplest solution to the issue at hand. Duke Burgeon was also on the side of evil. The only issue that Brocken worries about is the potential chaos this move would bring about across the entire kingdom. There's no doubt that everyone will be paying attention to this. However, Dex just asked him if he was familiar with the idea of a Gordian knot, and it was clear that he was unaware of it. The Gordian knot, according to RMC, is an abnormally complex knot that is impossible to entangle. However, there is a way to resolve this and untangle this one. Brocken was still clueless about the solution. Dex disclosed that cutting it is the only option. There is no way that they could solve it, even if everyone tried their hardest. And the easiest way to deal with the aftermath was to simply chop it off. Dex was confident that everything would turn out in the end. The Count was shocked by how careless Dex's behavior was. However, he was aware that they required this viewpoint to address the issue facing the Maroon Kingdom. The RMC's solution is the best available. The Count showed more respect for this man, and he gave Dex carte blanche to do as he pleased. He was aware that this adventure was not quite what it seemed. The most terrifying creature on the planet was standing right in front of him. Following this, the system informed Dex that he had progressed to the primary role of altering the course of events in the Maroon Kingdom. The primary objective was also modified. There is now a subquest in which the RMC must kill Dukebert. Because the quests around him changed based on how he played the game, Dex found this one to be really interesting. And Satan showed up on Dex's side since it was about killing. This grabs his attention. Elle was trying to talk Dex out of doing the subquest when she appeared on the other side. This was essentially about how RMC would approach this quest, and it brought back their constant backstabbing. Elle said that although they could still kill the Duke, they ought to tell him and ask for a duel beforehand. This perplexed main character since it would negate the primary goal of the assassination. Angels truly possessed intriguing methods of operation. She insisted that the Duke should be informed at least 3 days in advance so he could make plans. Satan felt that her concept was too morbid. After they got into another argument, Dex said he didn't want to deal with the Duke straight away. These two were forced to pause and inquire of their master the cause of this. Then it became clear that Dex wanted to hear both sides of the tale before making a decision. He is certain that Duke Burhen would launch a conflict without good cause. It was crucial to hear from someone who, unlike Dex, was not even born in the Maroon Kingdom. He was aware that the power struggle was the cause of everything, which was to his advantage. Because, in the end, all that mattered to him was the potential profit from this mission. And he was currently leaning towards supporting the side that would be most advantageous to him. His two familiars find their master's methods astounding. One could only characterize this kind of mindset as perfect self-centeredness. Promises, for example, would be readily ignored in the name of increased profit. And within the game, that's how Dex wanted to live. Meanwhile, information regarding the Ajin Electronics stock price was being disseminated at the GM Group during quarters. It broke $5,000 and established a new record. The primary cause of this was the increased interest from investors in their technology, particularly in Arcadia. The mere mention of this news gave Choi Soon-young, the chairman of the GM Group and the father of Jeju, a headache. The Dreamer capsules Ajin Electronics irritated him a great deal. He recalled that his company and the Ajin Group were viewed as competitors 5 years ago. However, they began to lose because the older population spearheaded the technological revolution. However, the Dreamer was the most well-known product that the older group unveiled. This sparked a global movement as well as one in Korea. He was now considering diversifying his company's business beyond traditional sectors like construction and autos, as doing so would cause it to become antiquated. His assistant called to let him know that his son Choi Jeju would be visiting his office while he was trying to come up with a solution to this issue. Because he had good news, this guy opened the door and ran to his father. When he told his father he needed 8 billion won, Young immediately became upset. Jeju attempted to persuade his father to give him additional investment because he assured him that this would be the last time he would request financial assistance. However, Young quickly became irritated because his son believed that the sum of money was insignificant. Then he questioned his son about why he would require more, before he could continue discussing how he had allowed Jeju to play the game their rival had created. A substantial business proposal was placed on his desk. Intrigued, the elderly man asked Jeju what this whole thing was about. With a smile, this man asked his father to go through a few pages of this proposal. Young quickly discovered that this had to do with his son's colonization endeavors in the Maroon Kingdom.